What's going on? This is No Bad Days. I made an impromptu little stop at one of my favorite places to kind of get outside, wander around, soak up the rays. It's a beautiful day out today. It's a little bit cold, just about 0 out, but beautiful altogether. Just gonna duck this railing. No trespassing. It depends who you talk to, I guess. Yeah, I was just I didn't have the camera with me, and I just wanted to take a quick stop and touch base on a couple of things that have just kind of been on my mind lately. I'm at a interesting point in my life now where things are going pretty well for me. I've got lots of great opportunities have come up in my life in the last couple of years, and I've said yes to a lot of those. I've also pursued some goals and some dreams that I was ultimately denied on and or was unable to do, or whatever it may be, and I had some losses as well to go with those victories. So ultimately today, what was kind of on my mind was finding that silver lining, or finding the positive in those negative experiences. And for me, ultimately at this point in my life, because it is going well, it's easy to look back at these experiences and look at them through a rose-colored lens, basically. Let's put it that way. And I can look at those, at the moment, disappointments, and see what they've taught me today. I wouldn't be exactly where I am today had those disappointments not occurred, had those companies not told me no, or those relationships ended, things like that. And the opportunities I have today are because those no's happened in my life. And I wouldn't be able to do the things I do. Sorry, I'm holding my cell phone here, which is brutal because I don't have the camera. I wouldn't be able to do what I do today if I'd said yes to those. My life may look different and or very different. On a smaller scale, looking at those losses, quote, and finding the positive in it, was I had to write a test the other day, and I scored really poorly on it. I worked really hard at it, and it was a quiz, it wasn't a test. And because I did poorly on it, I was able to review the information, figure out where I'd gone wrong, and when I rewrote it, I did amazing on it. So although in the moment I'd felt this like, oh no, this defeat, this loss, looking back, it taught me so much, and I wouldn't have learned it had I not done poorly on it. So yeah, maybe I would have got a half decent grade, but I ultimately did much better because I had taken a little bit of a hit, and when I got myself back together, it was a much fuller, more of a victory at the end of the day. So looking back at it now, I can see what I learned from that experience, where in the moment I was throwing around some books and I was upset and had to take a little time out. But I know it's easier said looking back on it, like hindsight's 20/20. I understand that. But if we can somehow find a way in those moments when we feel defeated or lost or challenged, and live in the moment and understand that this is a teachable moment. There's something to be learned from these experiences. And I know it may be difficult to do, but it may even help us take a little bit of that pain away when we see that this is going to be something that's going to lift us up if we want to be, if we want that change to happen. Every negative doesn't have to remain a negative. So even when we look at experiences like, maybe traumatic experiences, looking back at some traumatic experiences for myself today, I can see that there was a lesson to be taught in that. Now in the moment, of course not, but I can see that there was something to be learned from it. And then even to be able to take those experiences, like my addiction and stuff like that, and turn those into a positive, kind of changes the narrative of my story, or my life resume for that matter. It goes from being this, drunk, out of control, ruining everything, bad to people story, to this person that's trying to now uplift people, living a better life, trying to help everybody he can, and while helping myself. So that rewrites that story in the moment. Again, very difficult to see that, light at the end of the tunnel. But because I have faith that there is light at the end of the tunnel, I can kind of see that in the moment. So ultimately, I guess at the end of the day, what I'm kind of trying to say here is that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And every experience, there's something to be learned from it. And if we can take something positive away from it, it changes the impact of that experience. Like looking back at that test. Yeah, it sucked that I did poorly on it, but I learned a lot more because of it, and moving forward in this line of work, I'll be that much better because of that experience. So finding the silver lining, finding the positive in those negatives, and having a little bit of faith that there is something, even if it's not showing itself at that point in time. I know when it comes to relationships and stuff like that, it can feel like, when you lose somebody or a relationship ends, that's the end of the world, or nothing will ever be great again. But there's also something to be learned from those experiences. There's a takeaway from all of it, and I think ultimately at the end of the day is when we find what that positive is of it, that takes us from being a victim or a person that's suffering with trauma and things like that, and it turns us into a survivor, and it allows us to live and thrive. And there's a lot to be learned from that. Like, I see so many people in my life who have had traumatic events, and today are not only taking those traumatic events and thriving with them, but also inspiring so many other people. There's so many people out there, and I'm lucky to have those people in my lives because they inspire me on a daily basis. But those are people that took a negative and not only turned it into a positive, but really have grown with it and really have helped a lot of people because of it. So there's always something to be learned from these negative experiences, and it's finding that lesson in it. And I think that's ultimately, for me, what that maturity is all about in my life. I can tell I'm maturing, I can tell I'm growing as an individual when I find those negative experiences, when I make that shift in my perspective on the way the outcomes are happening in my life. Like I just said, I am where I am today because of the experiences I've had in my life, both positive and negative. And I'm grateful for all of them, because I am at a good place in my life where I understand what my needs and wants are as an individual, and I am leveling up and continuing to grow. I'll touch more on this in a little bit. I can't really talk about it at this point in time, but I'm working towards something bigger in my life career-wise, and I'm working very hard at it, and while still doing what I do for a living. And there's challenges in it, and I'm tired, and I'm still doing all my service work and stuff like that, but I know that there's so much to be learned at this point in time that I just got to keep pushing forward. There is an end date. There's a time when I know that this will all be wrapped up, and the reward is there when that time comes. So I just have to keep pushing forward, understanding that there's a lesson in all of this, and that I need to continue growing and learning throughout this process. It's been a challenge. There's been ups and downs, but at the end of the day, as I always say, it's no bad days, and the sun's shining today. It's my day off. I've already done a couple tests today, and I got my car washed, and just I had to get out of the house for a moment and stretch my legs, soak up a little bit of nature. This is we're very lucky to live in a city where we have nature reserves and stuff like that, and I can just pop out of town in 5 minutes and get out and stretch my legs, get some fresh air, feel good about it, and take a moment and kind of share what's on my mind with you guys. So I'll leave it at that. I may add more to this later. I may not. Depends. My time is so limited right now that I just want to make sure that I do get out what's on my mind. And if there's anything that's going on any of the viewers' minds, by all means, please comment below. If there's something in your life that's occurred that was maybe at that moment very negative or traumatic, and you've turned that into something bigger, please let me know. Those stories really, really do lift people up. People love to see redemption stories, myself included. And we're in this together. You don't have to do this alone. If there's anything you need help with, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to do whatever I can to help. So thanks so much for listening. If I don't add anything to this is the end of it for today. So I'm No Bad Days. I'm Ryan. This is No Bad Days. Take care.